Nike is famous for spotting future legends. Whether it's Michael Jordan's iconic Air Jordans or Serena Williams' game-changing endorsements, the brand's influence on sports marketing is undeniable. That's why their sudden slip-up with Caitlin Clark stunned everyone. Clark, heralded by many as the future of women's basketball, was poised to become Nike's next breakout star, until they all but erased her from a major ad campaign. Overnight, fans turned from celebrating Nike's vision to roasting the brand for one of its worst marketing moves in recent memory. What happened? First, Clark appeared in a flashy Super Bowl ad that thrust her into the national spotlight. Then, a follow-up commercial dropped. But Clark was nowhere to be found. Viewers immediately noticed the snub, and social media lit up with questions and outrage. Nike's attempt to patch the omission only deepened the crisis, creating a PR fiasco that stands to haunt the brand if Clark decides to walk away. How could the company that helped shape global superstars manage to drop the ball on a generational talent? Let's dig into every twist of this scandal, from the triumphant hype to the disastrous aftermath. And what might happen next? Before the controversy, Caitlin Clark was already on a steep, upward trajectory. The University of Iowa phenom shattered scoring records, whipped crowds into a frenzy with deep three-pointers, and seemed to perform highlight-worthy feats every single game. Videos of her no-look passes and jaw-dropping shots regularly went viral, suggesting she was more than just another college star. She was a potential face of the sport. Experts compared her shooting range to Stephen Curry's, calling her a game-changer who could elevate women's basketball to unprecedented heights. Even casual fans noticed her swagger and confidence, suggesting a crossover appeal that could rope in new audiences. By the time people began whispering that Nike was courting Clark, it felt like a perfect match. She had the skills, personality, and buzz that top-tier brands dream about. Those whispers were confirmed with a bang during the Super Bowl. Nike's ad featured Clark alongside established names, practically crowning her as a new headliner. Social media erupted with excitement, with celebrities and athletes alike praising the company for showcasing such a dynamic young player. Many thought it would be the start of a long, fruitful partnership that could rival the brand's legendary campaigns. At first, it seemed like Nike understood the magnitude of Clark's star power. Fans assumed future ads would cement her position as the face of women's sports, pointing to her as the next marketing linchpin. But everything changed with the release of Nike's next commercial, one that unexpectedly cut Clark from the narrative in the follow-up ad. Other athletes were praised by name, almost like a ceremony of who's who in the Nike family. Yet Clark, who had just headlined a commercial in front of a massive Super Bowl audience, was nowhere to be found. It wasn't just a minor omission. It felt like a complete erasure. Fans were bewildered. They'd tuned in specifically to see more of the transcendent player from the Super Bowl spot, only to realize she'd vanished. Had Nike changed its mind about Clark? Was this part of a bigger strategy? The questions poured in on social media, accompanied by mounting annoyance at the brand's decision. Outrage exploded across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. People spliced clips of Clark's highlights next to the new ad, mocking Nike for ignoring the athlete who generated so much hype a day earlier. Some joked that Nike's marketing team had memory loss. Others took a harsher tone, calling the snub disrespectful given how transformative Clark could be for women's basketball. The conversation was no longer just about a missing cameo. It became about the larger issue of how brands treat rising stars in women's sports. Numerous fans accused Nike of underestimating her popularity. One viral post read, "You introduced us to Caitlin Clark, then acted like she was never there." Make it make sense. Marketers warned that this level of backlash could damage Nike's reputation, especially at a moment when people crave authenticity and consistency in endorsements. Facing widespread criticism, Nike attempted to course correct. They released what they called a director's cut, essentially the same commercial with a clumsy voiceover suddenly mentioning Clark by name. To viewers, it felt like watching a poorly dubbed movie. The dialogue didn't match the speaker, and it broke the commercial's flow. Rather than cooling tempers, this half-hearted insert became its own punchline. Fans ridiculed the forced nature of the voiceover, with some joking that Nike executives must have recorded it at the last minute on a phone call. In a matter of hours, the director's cut turned into a cautionary tale for how not to respond to a PR crisis. It seemed to confirm that Clark was merely an afterthought, further fueling speculation that Nike didn't understand her worth. The saga raised an obvious question. If Nike keeps treating Clark as a marketing accessory rather than a star, will she stay loyal? Multiple brands, Adidas, Under Armour, Puma, are eager to invest in women's basketball. They could swoop in with lucrative deals, capitalizing on Nike's misstep. Marketing experts pointed out that Steph Curry's partnership with Under Armour fundamentally changed that brand's trajectory. Clark could have a similar impact somewhere else. It's not every day that a young college player draws national attention, sells out arenas, and dominates highlight reels. Brands rarely get a chance to invest in a transcendent talent at such an early stage. Missing that boat, or fumbling it, can have enormous consequences. Beyond Nike's short-term PR nightmare, the Clark fiasco underscores how critical it is for brands to build trust with rising women's sports stars. Interest in women's athletics is surging, driven by greater coverage, bigger crowds, and star players who break through the media noise. A brand that disrespects or overlooks a player like Clark risks alienating an entire generation of fans. Commentators who typically praise Nike's campaigns openly voiced confusion and disappointment, labeling the company's response a basic PR fail. They noted that all it would have taken was a straightforward, sincere explanation. Something like, "We messed up, and we apologize to Caitlin Clark," to minimize the damage. Instead, the brand opted for a patchwork edit, fueling even more criticism. Now the spotlight shifts to Caitlin Clark. Will she choose to remain with Nike and risk further disrespect? Or will she seize on offers from competitors that promise a prime-time role? Either path carries weighty implications for her future and for women's basketball endorsements as a whole. If Clark stays, Nike must launch a strong redemption campaign, potentially offering a signature line, an honor few athletes receive. If she walks, it will be a seismic move that signals to other rising stars that Nike might not fully appreciate their potential. The ripple effect could be enormous, with rival brands scooping up athletes seeking partnerships where they won't be sidelined. Whichever way Clark goes, she isn't just an individual player. She's a symbol of where women's sports can head next. Fans want to see her succeed, and they're ready to support companies that share that vision. In a world where social media can amplify every success and failure, Nike's stumble has become a warning for any brand that underestimates the power of rising female athletes. Nike's mishandling of Caitlin Clark is more than a simple marketing error. It's a case study in how quickly a brand's image can sour when it fails to honor the athlete who ignited fan excitement in the first place. The company went from celebrating Clark on Super Bowl Sunday to casually excluding her, then tried to fix the slip-up with an awkward voiceover that only magnified the problem. Meanwhile, Clark's future remains a hot topic among fans, journalists, and industry insiders. She has the skills and charisma to become a generational icon, and every brand knows it. The only question is which company will give her the unwavering spotlight she's earned. If Nike doesn't seize this chance to make amends and place her at the center of its next wave, they might watch her revolutionize the sport, wearing someone else's logo. In the end, the ball is firmly in Caitlin Clark's court. How Nike chooses to respond and how Clark handles the opportunity could reshape the landscape of women's basketball endorsements for years to come. Will Nike learn from its self-inflicted wound, or will another brand step in to claim the future of the game? The sports world is watching, and every second counts.